Второй подход к снаряду, тот же ангар, мы с Адамом летим на его корпоративном Vision Jet.
My name is Adam Hahn. I'm the Managing Director of International Sales at Cirrus. I'm responsible for all of our export sales, so everything outside of North America, as well as being part of the Vision Jet sales team.
So what is percentage? How many airplanes going to United States market and how many airplanes going outside? Do you have this number?
about 25% of our business is outside of the United States.
Good.
For retail, and about 75% inside of the United States. And then if you kind of add fleet into that, like, flight schools, universities, professional, training programs, the majority of that goes outside of the United States as well. There's a big opportunity for the international flight training markets.
Nice. How do you feel? Do people replace Cessnas to Cirrus for flight training?
That's the goal. That's the goal, but
this already happens, right?
I'm sure you learned how to fly in a Cessna, and I learned how to fly in a Cessna. We all did, so we respect that the Cessna is a wonderful training platform. But the value proposition that we give people is that the Cirrus SR-20 specifically is a technologically advanced airplane.
Right.
The platform makes it easier for a student pilot to get all of their ratings all the way through commercial and in CFI if necessary, ATP, and apply what they've learned in the experience they have in that type of airplane, those types of avionics, FMS controllers, all that stuff, and apply it to the next airplane that they fly professionally, which is almost certainly going to be a glass cockpit.
And you can start your private from Cirrus and you can finish your commercial on the Cirrus.
That's right.
And then you can go to next airplane, which is the same avionics like Cirrus, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, this is true.
So there's an example of Marshall University in West Virginia just taking delivery.
Is this SR-20 flight training model?
Yep.
Also, what happens in 2020? Do you feel any problems with COVID? Is kind of give you some problem in a business?
There was a point in time where we made the decision to shut down the production line and essentially close that part of our business for, I guess it was about a month, maybe just a little bit more than 1 month, just to be safe. So we are unable to produce as many airplanes as we would have liked to this year. However, the order rate that we have this year compared to last year or the year before is even higher. So we're seeing that we're not having negative effects from COVID, at least on the order rate. It affects other parts of our business. It affects where some of our customers and how they travel.
Right.
So it's upset some things in our business. But overall, I think general aviation will stand to benefit from overall what's happening. Not to say we're taking advantage of the situation, but people will prefer to fly with their family or with people that they know and travel that way if they have the ability or the wherewithal financially to do that. They'll make that decision.
Totally agree with you.
Right.
How many hours you have on this airplane?
I believe close to 200 hours. So checking the fuel, you can see there's a tab in there, so just similar to the SR series, and it shows you how much is in that tank. So 130, 115, and 100.
And 148 is totally usable per tank, right?
Yep. He's a little dirty. You can see here, one thing to point out is the pneumatic de-icing boot made by Goodrich. Okay. You also have.
Do you have any lifetime limits on these boots? Actually, any lifetime limitation on this airplane? Because SR has 12,000 hours, right? As I remember.
Right. Yeah, the lifetime limitation. I mean, you have your engine limitations, of course, with the 4,000 hour overhaul. Okay. 2,000 hour hot section. I think it's the same as the SR series. It's 12,000 hours. 12,000. But I need to get back to you on that. Trim tab. I'm checking all the NAC events to make sure there's no birds or anything next. So this here is called the yaw Stability Augmentation System, yaw SAS we call it, right? Which is an assistance to the yaw damper. And the yaw damper is actively working the ruddervators, and the yaw SAS, if the airplane is out of coordination, you see it'll push you back into coordination just naturally. It's kind of a neat technology. It helps with this big V-tail, kind of making it an X.
And this is completely automatically managed, right?
Yep. So, here's where you check your oil. If you need to add oil, of course you need to be on a level surface and with a ladder, a Phillips screwdriver, pretty simple, a funnel, and you add your oil. So for oil, you kind of have to get up there. Oftentimes I'll just use a flashlight to make sure I'm seeing everything. That looks good. Can you see in there where there's a sight glass in there?
Perfect.
What a lot of people will do is actually just take a picture of it using the flash. See the Behringer wheels and brakes, just like the SR series. She's a little dirty. She's been sitting outside.
Flaps had the same two positions for takeoff and landing?
Yep. You'll see as we fly the airplane, you're going to see a lot of similarities in flap speeds, rotation speeds, final approach speeds, or VREF as we call it.
So it's easy to transit from SR 2022 to...
That's the reason we announced that we were building this airplane in the first place, was because our customers that are flying the SR 22 and 22 Turbo needed something to grow up into, to go higher, further, faster. And this airplane is perfect for a Cirrus pilot to transition to. So if you aspire to fly a jet, and this is the most technologically advanced jet in the GA market, start in an SR 22.
Yep.
So the first thing you go through when you get into the airplane, we're going to do a VFR flight, so we'll make sure that we update that when we come back. I'll put a request to exit this door, right? Close it like that, okay? And then for this door, okay, just lock it like this. In order to open it, you're pushing the button and rotate, okay? So we're good there. Check. And then we're going to go through our system tests, okay? So I'm going to turn my master oxygen on. That's for the emergency oxygen masks. Okay, we'll do the pre-flight test. First, going to check the fire system. Right. So if you have a fire emergency, turn that. You hit that. That turns up. That's the emergency fuel shut off, and then you can discharge the bottles, the fire bottles. Okay. Checks the AOA for 1.0, which is stall. That system's working, and that's a pre-flight emergency test. Inertial fuel on board sync tells me okay. 227
The
gallons.
onboard sync is taken from gauges, right?
Yeah, and so if I added fuel, it would tell me how much I added, and I have to make sure that matches up with what I asked for. So I'm going to guess you're about 165 pounds.
185.
I'm going to guess I'm about 185. We're both
185.
Yeah, me too, and I'm 180, and I'm 185 too. Okay, we don't have any extra baggage or anything, so we're good there. We're in the envelope, right? Good.
Awesome.
Destination's going to be, it's going to be K. Somebody change this, T, Y, S. So I'm going to change that later because somebody changed it out of QWERTY.
All these screens for some specific action, right? So this is for PFD, this is for navigation, this is for radio, right?
That's right. Yeah. Beach Mountain. Okay. Yeah, so we set this up, and you can change these. So if you want to have a navcom, you can change it, but we train it this way so that this one's set for the PFD, this for the multi-function screen. So there's 3 multi-function screens right now. You can expand or split those, okay? And I'll show you that in a minute. So it looks like they're using 5 right today. Required takeoff distance based on our weight, the temperature, density, altitude. It's telling me that my takeoff ground roll is 2562. And takeoff over 50-foot obstacle 3950. So I'm going to use that number to put in here, 3950. Enter, okay? And I know it'll compare what I put in there for takeoff distance to the runway that I've selected. If the runway's not long enough, it'll give me a warning. Okay, we're going to accept the initialization. Okay, so since we did the pre-flight, we're shutting the door, parking brake, Let's go ahead and pull the parking brake on. So same as this, the SR22. Push the brakes in and reach down for the handle. There it is.
It's off.
Yep, pull it on.
Pull it on, okay.
Thank you. Gen 1, Gen 2, bat 1, bat 2. We're good there. Okay, strobe lights. Task messages. The only thing we have is parking brake on and door open. Okay, holding the brakes. This is where it gets very complicated. To turn the engine on, you're going to turn it to run. We're going to listen for the fuel pump. Get fuel pump on.
Automatic.
Yep, and it's FADEC, so this is all the way back. Push the button one time above.
This one.
Yep. Good. And we're looking for N1 before N2 hits 25. We got light off within 8 seconds. ITT in the green. All temperature in the green. All pressure in the green. Looks like a good start. Battery recharge is off. The gen starter generator is drawing from battery 1. And now I have the generators running, so I can turn my environmental control system on, so the air conditioning will come up. So we just went through this sequence. Good engine start. We got all of these parameters met. Perfect. Moving slow. And we just changed the cap altitude Vision Jet to 600 feet. We just changed it, so it's the same. Go through and get the ATIS.
1406, visibility 10, sky condition 6,500 scattered.
Altimeter set, transponder, we have visual.
Yep, we're gonna go, he'll give us a squawk code, but you can go
anyway, right?
VFR. Alright, so I'm gonna change here, I'm gonna go into utilities, go into initialization, and change the takeoff information here to 23 left. Okay. Same takeoff distance applies. Now I just turned it around inside the computer, so it won't give us an error message. Hey, flight controls for incorrect.
For incorrect.
Trim. So your trim, you do have a mechanical trim here.
Yep.
The trim wheel, and you want to be for takeoff in the green. 6 degrees is probably about perfect if you go to 6 degrees trim up. You do have the top hat with the electric trim. You can use that. I find that on this airplane. This is a little bit easier to be precise.
Right.
So I prefer to use that for elevator trim. Now, the roll trim, we'll check it here and kind of make sure it's neutral. But usually, you don't touch that for the rest of the flight.
Flaps 50%. Check toga.
It's a toga button to bring the flight director up.
I got it.
We'll bring the flight director up to 5 degrees, right? So for a normal attitude after departure, 5 degrees pitch up attitude. Okay. Past messages, we can go past those. Seat belts, don't have any passengers to worry about. Parking brake, brakes, check. And we'll do the departure briefing here. So normal departure, okay? So you're gonna go, once we're clear for takeoff, you're gonna go full thrust. So you'll see there's a detent for MCT right there.
One click and second one.
You'll go all the way to the stops, for takeoff. And you'll notice that the power will go all the way up to the T for takeoff, okay? The top of the green arc and where this detent is MCT, maximum continuous thrust.
Right.
There's an allowance of 5 minutes of maximum takeoff thrust, and generally speaking, the expectation is that we keep it to around 2 minutes of maximum takeoff thrust,
I understand.
and then bring it back to MCT. Okay. Landing lights are on already.
Yep.
Check. Probe heat switch, we can turn that on before we depart. Okay. When we go back to the takeoff departure briefing, full thrust for takeoff, we're going to rotate at 90 knots. Okay, 90 knots, rotate. Positive rate of climb, safe altitude, the gear's up.
Yep.
So we're going to pull it out and up. And when you pull the gear up, you want to trim forward. It's about a half roll forward of trim. Then you won't be fighting the controls. That's
Okay.
right. At 115, 115 knots, you'll bring the flaps up to 0. Okay?
Got
So
it.
115, I'll call out
90115, okay.
Yep. And then you're going to climb at about 150 knots. Best rate is actually 151. So I'm going to put that in here, 151, right there. So it's going to show up there
Okay.
once we get into the takeoff. Let's see. In the case of an emergency, before reference rotation speed, okay, we'd like to stop on the runway, so apply brakes and thrust lever to idle. If it's after we rotate, we want to try to land straight ahead if it's possible, or if it's below 600 feet, we'll try to land within our windscreen in a safe area. If it's above 600 feet, we have caps available.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's above 2,000 feet above the ground, so we'll call it 3,000 feet roughly, we'll spend a little bit of time troubleshooting before we deploy caps. Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then we'll talk about caps a little bit later. It's a little bit more sophisticated in this airplane, but we'll talk about it when we're in air. Okay, so I'm going to call and get a clearance just for VFR. Knoxville clearance, Vision Jet, 958 Alpha Golf. We're on the Charlie ramp. We have the information. Oscar. And looking for a VFR departure to the west at 14,500 feet.
And Vision Jet calling, give me your full call sign one more time and say you requested on course heading.
Yeah, sorry, it's a request on course. We're going towards Hinge Mountain. It's about 275 up to 14.5, and it's November 9er 58 Alpha Golf. We're actually returning to Knoxville. It's just a local flight.
November 9er 58 Alpha Golf, Knoxville clearance, roger, standby.
Give us a squawk, and what he'll probably say is depart heading 250,
Yeah, I'll see it.
6,000 feet, or at or below 3,000 feet, something like that. So
Frequency 123.9er, squawk 5104.
okay, at or below 3,000, 123.9er, 5104, November 9er 58 Alpha Golf. Enter.
Vision Jet 8 Alpha Golf, read back correct.
1309er.
Yep, got
Okay,
it.
we can call for taxi. Right?
November
121.9er.
There you go. Knoxville ground, Vision Jet, November 9er 58 Alpha Golf, Charlie, taxiway, Charlie, ramp, ready for taxi.
Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf, Knoxville ground, runway 23 left, Alpha 8, taxi via Alpha.
23 left, Alpha 8 via Alpha, 958 Alpha. That's full length, except for it's the first taxiway before full length. So
Yep.
go ahead.
Left side clear.
Okay, as we go through, we can sort of get our heads mentally, get mentally prepared and go through the departure sequence again. So just always like to say it twice, right? So
I can repeat it.
Yep. So if you want to repeat it, we're
Yeah, I
going
want
to
to
full
repeat
thrust.
We're gonna go to full thrust on a takeoff position. Check it. We have MC. We have a T.
Yep.
We have the T, and accelerate up to 90 knots. 90 knots. This is rotation speed. If anything happens before 90 knots, we're gonna abort and stop on the runway. If we have anything happens after 90 knots, I still have 3,000 feet available runway. I will put power to idle and try to land the airplane. Otherwise, we're gonna take off and take these problems in the air. I have 2 call-outs, positive rate of climb, gear is up, and 150 flaps up, and 151 is my B speed for climbing.
Perfect.
Right.
Best. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so normal takeoff. We're gonna hold the brakes. We're gonna go full thrust, and thrust setting. We're gonna just verify that it's aligned with the bug. And one should show up here.
Okay, good.
Let's go probe heat on.
Looks clear. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, hold the brakes. Go to takeoff power. Everything in the green. T. Airspeed is alive.
Yep. And don't need any more brakes. Just using the rudder evaders. Good. 70 for 90. 80 for
Everything
90.
looks good. No lights. 90.
90 rotate.
Rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gears up.
Gears coming up. A little bit of trim forward.
Yep.
Good. Looking for 115.
Yep. 115. Flaps up. And we can go to MCT, right?
I would leave it, let it climb. Let's get to, say, 3,000 feet, and then we'll pull it back. And you can start the right turn to 270 heading.
Your damper engage automatically, so we don't need any action.
And you can go heading mode for the
flight
director and FLC.
For flight level change, okay.
There you go.
Vision Jet 8 Alpha Golf, contact departure.
Departure Vision 9058 Alpha Golf with you, 270, 3,000 feet.
Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf, Knoxville departure, radar contact, turn right on course Hinch Mountain, climb to your requested altitude 14.5.
Right on course, Hinch Mountain, 14.5, November 958 Alpha Golf.
So we climb 2,500 feet per minute, right?
Not too bad, is it?
26, that's not bad at all.
Okay, so thank you. You pulled the thrust lever back to MCT. You do have the flight meter here, the flight timer here, which is handy.
Perfect.
When making that decision. Okay, engine parameters. Go across, make sure everything's in the green, 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 green. We did remember to bring the gear up. We did remember to bring the flaps up. And the cabin is pressurizing.
Where do you see the cabin pressurizing?
Pressurizing. Here
okay,
we're at 2.0
I got it.
now. Yep. All right. So we're good until we get into cruise.
Knoxville, Cirrus 681, Juliet Kilo, one charge of 10.
So let's be careful not to go into the clouds here since we're just on the VFR today. Let's find a place where we can
jump higher.
Yeah, get through there. We might want to just go north here. I can tell them that. Let's do that. Let's turn north.
And Knoxville Vision Jet November 958 Alpha Golf. We kind of need a spot to get through clouds here. I think we're going to go straight north if it's okay.
So one layer here.
I was on the landline. Who called me?
I'm sorry, it's 958 Alpha Golf. Just letting you know we're turning north because we just got to find a break in the clouds here to climb a little bit more.
Right, Alpha Golf, Roger. Please requested and contact Atlanta Center 133.6.
336, right on. 88 Alpha Golf.
Perfect. Yeah, it should be better.
I can jump this hole.
Perfect. Yeah, it looks like plenty of space up there.
Atlanta Vision Jet November 958 Alpha Golf, 8,100 climbing.
Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf, Atlanta Center, Knoxville, altimeter 29907.
29907, Roger, and just to let you know, we're just headed north here to find a hole in the clouds here and then climb up to 14.5.
Roger that.
Nice. Okay.
We have really nice climb performances.
Real good. Yes, I agree.
What was the fuel on initial fuel? 166?
A little bit more. We're at 202 now. Let's see what it was when we started. I think it was at... Fuel was at 227.
227.
Yeah. 227. So we're burning quite a bit now, right? We're burning 91 in the climb. And it's because we're at lower altitude and it kind of balances out. As we get higher, we burn less fuel.
On a cruise, usually you burn like 50?
Yeah, in
60?
the cruise. So today, since we're only going to 14.5, you're going to see a pretty high number here, probably in the 70s.
Okay.
But normally, you're going to be closer to 60 gallons per hour, plus or minus 5 gallons per hour, depending on what the temperature is.
I mean, 60 gallons an hour is beautiful.
No, it's great.
It's great for a jet with this airspeed.
To get 300 knots, absolutely. All right, doing a nice job.
75088, Atlanta Center, around the world.
Now we can
flight level 2.
Yep, now you can go back. Let's go back
to
the
150.
West. Yeah.
And go back to west.
Yeah, perfect.
Good afternoon, Atlanta Center, Comanche November.
Take a look here. We've got the XM weather, which this is kind of nice because we'll see it's about 150 and there's some weather inside of 150 miles. So as we're going out here,
look at
let's
this
see
weather.
how high it is, but yeah, tops of 25,000 feet. So there's some big stuff out here, and we'll pull it up on the weather radar and should be able to see it as we turn in that direction.
This is so cool.
There you go. Go direct, enter.
If you're really heavy with full tanks, say 3 people on board, what is the best? What rate of climb do you have usually? 500 feet per minute, say 700?
Yeah, it varies. I mean, sort of depending on what altitude you're climbing through and how heavy the
temperature, blah blah blah. But
yeah.
I mean, normal standard temperature.
I always expect to see 1,000 feet per minute or higher.
Good.
As you get closer to flight level 310, obviously it dissipates to, 600, 700 feet a minute sometimes at the end. It depends on what your
with request.
4577 Papa
standard, your temperatures. So we're ISO plus 18. Beautiful day. Nice day.
ISO plus 18 and we're still climbing 1,000 feet per minute.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
it's better in the cold, obviously, but today is not bad.
Approaching 14.5. 200 to go.
Perfect.
So I have MCT, but I need to do auto thrust, right?
So first you're going to do the autopilot. So go ahead and do that. Let's automate. Turn autopilot on.
Alt.
Yep.
Autopilot. Okay.
Great. So that's going to connect. Now you can turn the auto throttles on. So right now it's in FMS mode. And I'll explain that to you, but go ahead and hit AT. So now the auto throttle is on, and you look at the scoreboard here. You see auto throttle.
Speed 245 GPS.
Yep.
Okay.
So you see 245. It's in purple. Okay. This is governed by everything you see here. So during the climb, the auto throttle, when it's in FMS mode, it's going to follow these guidelines.
Okay.
Okay. So the transition altitude in the climb at 151, that's what it's going to set the power for. In the terminal area on the departure, it will not exceed 200 knots below 2,500 feet within 4 miles. So that's if you engage it. On the cruise, simply, it's set so that it doesn't exceed our VNE speed. And in the descent, this is maybe the most important part, is that it descends. And as you're descending, so I could put it in a descent 3,000 feet per minute, and it's not going to exceed 245. It's going to pull the thrust lever back. So on the descent, and then also in the terminal area, this is really nice. Terminal area, it knows we're within 10 miles below 3,000 feet AGL. It is going to slow the airplane to 180 knots. Why 180?
And number 69
because
clear direct destination.
We can put the first flaps in below 190. Yeah.
Okay.
So 180 is perfect because then I can
10 miles like safety
exactly.
margin.
And then once you put flaps in, it supersedes all of this stuff. What it's going to do is going to change. It's going to go 180, and then it's going to go 140, which then allows us to go full flaps.
Okay.
Okay. And then once you put full flaps in, it's going to go to 95. And 95 is a perfect. It's like that's about VREF plus 10.
525 Tango Kilo contact Memphis Center 132.9.
The other thing I could do here is you can change to manual. So go ahead and push manual, and then look up here above your airspeed tape, 245. Okay, so I can use this roll. So go ahead and scroll down.
Speed air
so bring it towards
11,
you.
Contact
250.
Center
Now bring it the other direction. Say set it for a 190.
124.
So keep coming 190 and see what happens.
2462.
Okay, so 190, it's going to use the thrust lever. So watch the thrust lever now. Yeah, but look at the thrust lever is actually moving.
Yep.
And 6069 Alpha from.
Wow.
Endeavor 5088.
So it's going to move
level 330.
and set the power to where it's going to maintain 190. You'll see it come back forward once it gets you slow enough, and it'll juggle back and forth.
So if I forgot about auto thrust, I can override it, or
you can pull it out just like an autopilot. You can overpower it. It's not something I recommend doing.
No,
there's an autopilot disconnect button
here.
There.
Okay.
If you'd like to disconnect it. Yep. And if you turn the autopilot off,
auto thrust will automatically.
Contact Atlanta Center 121.35. Good day.
So cruise, we have thrust levers. Got it. Ice protection, no visible moisture. We're good. We don't have our VSM yet. We're still below our VSM.
Yep, don't need it.
And we have EASE, which is engine indicators.
System, yeah.
Green, 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 green. And we have 1800 altitude in a cabin.
That's right.
Pressurized. And differential pressure 5.3.
Perfect. Okay. So if you click it one more time, it'll go to the
to the next checklist.
Now, what I like to do if I'm going in a cruise for a while, go ahead and touch full. So you'll see it goes full screen on the PFD.
Oh.
Now I have a big, beautiful screen in front of me, a big, beautiful screen here. And if I want to split this screen, so for instance, I want to have the map there. And here, how about I pull up the weather radar? So there, I can turn it radar on.
Oh, nice.
It's pitched up 0.5 degrees. That's painting quite a bit of ground for me, but I'm going to zoom out. Oh yeah, there we go. I think I probably want to pitch up something like 3.5 degrees.
2457 there, 50.
Perfect.
Tilt up.
This is perfect.
I'm going to go into heading mode here actually, so because it's going to try to turn us back.
Yeah, it's going to go back.
clearly there's something out there that I don't want to deal with. We have some precipitation here, which then we can use this screen, right? We can use the one on the left here. Make sure you're out. So we're at 25 miles. Let's zoom out to 100 miles. Now you can compare these two things and go, wow, does it look, looks like there's some precip. How about out here at 100? Yeah, there's something building over there by Nashville.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I can see my, at this airspeed 190, I have 55, right?
That's right, that's right.
But if I go manual and up, it's not allow me to go higher than 250 for some reason. Why?
That's the maximum speed of the airplane. Yep. Maximum indicated.
Oh, yeah. So
maximum
300
indicated.
is a true airspeed,
true
right?
Airspeed,
okay.
Yep.
So 250 is max indicated speed, I see.
That's right, yep.
So now we have true airspeed 245 and ground speed 223. Got it?
That's right. I'm going to go full screen on this moving map again. And what I can do, if I want to change from showing the XM weather here, I can change sensor so that I'm, instead of NEXRAD, I can show weather radar. Okay? You can only show one or the other, but what I can do then is zoom out and have that nice
you can see all
sweep
this view
right there. Yep. And I can tilt it as required. Here, push this button in. Okay? And you can see as I turn the knob, the tilt is going up.
This is perfect. So we have 206 on indicated, 263 to airspeed.
Yep.
264.
And at this altitude, that's kind of what I would expect, 265, 270 at this low altitude. Burning quite a bit of fuel. But again, even if I'm going to Nashville, I'm probably going to go to 20,000 feet, you know, on 100, 100 mile, 150
The
mile
altitude
flight.
has make more sense in this airplane than in a piston, of course.
Absolutely, especially with the climb rates.
Yeah.
Right.
Okie dokie, what we can do? Fly back?
Yeah, I'll show you a couple of things before we do that. Since you're here, let's do this. So I want to show you a couple of things on the airplane. So first off, I'm gonna turn the autopilot off. Okay.
Your control.
I have the controls. So I'm gonna pull the thrust lever all the way to idle. Okay. I'll show you how quickly you can slow the airplane down, and then I'm going to show you the slow flight characteristics and some of the safety features on the airplane. Okay. So first, I'm going to start with a clearing turn. So there's 190, which my first notch of flaps can come in. Now I can bring my landing gear down. Anything below 210, I can bring the gear down. I'm looking for 123 green.
Okay.
123 green. And now my full flaps, I can go below
140.
150.
150.
Altitude.
150. Looking outside, making sure we have no traffic. Trim it up. Very similar to what we're going to look like when we're landing the airplane on final approach.
In a green zone?
Yeah, exactly.
So
your trim is set very much like you are on takeoff.
Yep.
Add a little bit of power back in. There's my VREF speed, so it's about 80 knots today, it looks like.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to bring it down to about 70 knots, okay? What I want to show you is, and I think you can see the stick on the camera here, is so when you get close to that stall speed, or 10 knots above it, you get the shaker. So see the brake here? So if I pull it up, pull the thrust to idle.
Stall.
So it's
Stall.
shaking.
I feel it. Yep.
Yeah.
Stall.
And then if I
Stall.
go a little further to stall,
Stall.
I get stick pusher,
Stall.
right?
Okay.
That gives me the stall warning. So that's a protection system, underspeed protection system.
6069
called ESP, right?
Discretion, maintain 13,000.
And so you can take care of that. You're also going to have the envelope protection. So for 45-degree banks, right?
So
That'll protect
technically you cannot stall this airplane unless you switch off the protection.
You would have to aggravate it. Yes, you'd really have to aggravate it. That's right. And same thing with banking over 45 degrees. If I go to 45 degrees, I let go. It's going to do the same thing.
8 Alpha Golf, are you going back to Knoxville?
8 Alpha Golf, just a little maneuvering here around Hinch Mountain, maybe 5 minutes, and headed back.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Just let me know when you're going back.
Okay.
Is spin test was on this airplane?
Good question. I don't think there's spin testing, or this is a normal category airplane. We tested the parachute. That's kind of another conversation, I guess. So I'm sure that in experimental flight tests they push the airplane to the envelope. I know they do
need to
all
do
the
this,
time.
right? No.
for stall and spin characteristics, but I'm not sure they've formalized it. Let's go back to the airport. Let's pick up at a vector to an approach, and we'll shoot an approach back into Knoxville.
And
Perfect.
Procedure, arrival, no, go back, approach.
Atlanta Vision
2,
Jet 958 Alpha Golf, ready to go back Knoxville.
Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf, Roger, maintain V4.
Roger.
So I have ILS 23 left.
Yep.
Right.
Perfect.
And Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf, contact Knoxville, approach 123.9er, and have a good night.
239er, appreciate it. 958 Alpha Golf.
See you.
This hole.
We saw some over there, and they're going to vector us north of Knoxville, which is
So we probably is going to be on a clearance.
Yeah, so if you just stick with about 090 heading, I think you're in good shape. If you want to go ahead and load that approach.
Yep, I would like. This is loaded. I can see the final right here.
Yep.
And I can see the missed approach procedure over the cross. Looks good.
Yeah, let's start with 11,500.
Sounds good to me.
Knoxville Vision Jet 958 Alpha Golf with you. Head back Knoxville, descending 14-1.
958 Alpha Golf, Knoxville approach, altimeter 2997, Oscar's current, expect 23 left.
We'll expect 23 left. We're going to stop at 11,500 at this point, Alpha Golf.
Roger.
Autopilot is the same like an SR20, SR22, no any changes, right? So it's completely the same.
So yeah, that's one of the things I like to point out to people is that the similarities here, where the controls are, how the autopilot looks and feels, what the flap handle is.
And I like how it's located. You have batteries and generators here, you have anti-ice, you have lights in the middle, everything is super easy, so you don't need to think even about.
It's perfect. And then reversionary mode in this airplane, I can just give it to you as an example, brings the PFD over here to this screen, and then you have a standby map here, okay? So your engine instruments are here.
It's good organized.
Yeah, and you can bring the map here, you can bring a chart here, and then maybe most importantly, you have a third source of attitude right here, third attitude or attahars, okay? And this is the mid-continent is providing that attitude, the mid-continent instrument, and it's displaying on the Garmin controller here. Yeah, maybe we can't get to 11.5, can we? 12.5, I guess.
Yeah, 12.5 looks more
promising.
The minimums on this autopilot the same, 200 on ILS. Decision altitude on ILS.
Right, right.
I mean, in a standard situation, when you're able to land the airplane, you don't need to use auto land.
So auto land is
your emergency.
Yeah, so safe return is just for emergencies. Okay. And the reason for that is when you push this button, okay? When you push this button, it activates an entire system, right?
Including 7700.
Squawk 7700. It's going to make radio calls and to the airport of arrival, telling them that you've activated or someone has activated the emergency auto land system, and the airplane is giving itself vectors. Please clear the runway. Okay. And then it's going to prepare itself to. It's going to scan for a GPS approach with vertical guidance. It's going to figure out which runway is best based on the weather. Okay. So it'll fly towards the airport, towards the initial approach fix. It'll fly the approach. It'll put the flaps down. It'll put the gear down.
Really?
It'll capture the glide path. It'll fly the airplane. It'll control the thrust. And it'll touch down on the runway and apply the brakes. And once it's on the runway and stopped, the brakes lock. Okay? So it's there. And then on these screens, which these screens change so that they're more passenger friendly. So these screens will say, push to talk, so it's just like you're using an iPhone. Push to talk, so you can just push the button and speak through the headset to the air traffic controller and say, hey, here's what's happening, please, whatever, and it'll tell you clear to exit the airplane.
Ident, maintain 5,000. Altimeter 2997.
Does any other airplanes have this function, or is it just exclusively for Vision Jet?
This system is available on some other airplanes, Garmin 3000 NXI equipped airplanes only, and not all of them. But as I said before, we think the value of the auto land system, so safe return by Cirrus, and the CAPS system, adding those two things together is really, really important.
Contact Atlanta Center.
Is any owners already activated caps or auto land? Do you know this case?
We have not. We have not had a caps deployment on the Vision Jet, nor have we had the auto land, the safe return system activated yet.
I wish you don't have it.
Me too. Me too.
While we're flying, we still have a few minutes for records. What is the price for this airplane right now?
Good question. So this is the Generation 2 Vision Jet that you're flying in. Okay, has comes standard equipped with the safe return feature. Okay, the new Garmin Avionics. RVSM is a feature, so the plane can fly higher than the Generation 1, up to 310. Quieter cabin. New battery system, right? Lithium-ion batteries. The price of the airplane is $2.85 million US, and that's a fully loaded airplane. There are only a few small options, like an additional seating package you can add, small upcharge for that, and then on top of that, the only other thing you can buy is what we call the Cirrus Jetstream Ownership Program, and that's going to be all of your maintenance, all your scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. It's going to be your Williams Tap Blue engine coverage, which covers you for all the maintenance events through the life of the engine, as well as the overhaul and the hot section events on the engine, and then much more like subscriptions, all the service bulletins, things of that nature, tires and brakes on the airplane.
As I remember, altogether is 3.2, 3.3.
3.2 is going to be, that's the very top end of really what you could spend if you wanted to customize the airplane or something along those lines. So most people come in right around $3 million US with the ownership program.
Итак, самолет Cirrus Vision Jet. Это самый дешевый самолет класса Business Jet. Когда он начал продаваться, его начальная стоимость была $1,3 миллиона примерно в 2012-2013 году, когда были только объявлены предзаказы. Когда я заказывал себе этот самолет в 2018 году, он уже стоил $1,96 миллиона. На сегодняшний день его цена $2,87 с завода, плюс всякие дополнительные фишки, он будет стоить порядка $3,3 миллиона под ключ, если вы захотите его получить в 2021-2022 году.
Attention please, this is the final call.
Perfect.
All right, so let's keep going down. Let's go 5,500 since he's not giving us any restrictions.
5,000.
8 Alpha Golf, altitude at your discretion. Just let me know when you're inbound for Q3 left.
Okay, 8 Alpha Golf, Roger. We have the airport in sight, and we'll let you know when we're inbound for 23 left.
Roger.
All right, so since we're at the airport in sight over there?
Yep. We can activate vectors to final.
Yeah, so you already have the thrust lever to idle. I love it. We can activate vectors to final. And where you're descending at about 2,000 feet per minute, why don't you go ahead and put flaps 1 or flaps 50?
180?
Sorry. Yep. Below 190. Below 190.
I know, but I would like to be on the safe side.
Oh, you're safe. I promise.
180.
Okay.
And if somebody would like to buy airplane, what is the lead time to wait?
Well, we do have some availability for, probably no sooner than somewhere in the 6 to 9 month range. We have some demonstrators that we resell. This is a case in point. Customer.
So my airplane 615, somebody can buy airplane before I will have my delivery.
They could, they could, because we have these demonstrators that you can buy, right? So like this one, this is a demonstrator, and we fly it for 4 or 5 months. We put about 200 hours on it. So that's an option. You buy it at today's price, of course. And then of the position holders, so you mentioned 615, leading up to 615, there are people that fall out once in a while, and we resell those positions. So if you want yours sooner, Andre, we just need to talk about it. We just need to talk about it.
I got it. My next question is, if you want to sell demo plane, for example, is it going to be some discount from pricing?
We do, we discount the airplane. I will call it a discount, but what we do is we compensate
The
owner
hours.
of the airplane for the hours that we fly.
Got it.
Yep. So that is the incentive is twofold. One, you get the airplane sooner, and two, you receive a fair value for every hour that we fly. Plus, we cover everything while we're flying the airplane. It's an exclusive lease back, usually based in Knoxville or somewhere in the U.S.
We're at 3,000.
We cover all the jet stream costs. We cover all the fuel and insurance and hangar, everything for those 4 or 5 months while we fly the airplane. Plus, we write a check compensating the owner of the airplane. You want to go ahead and turn right base?
Sure.
Medevac 6 Echo Hotel, radar contact 22 miles northwest, Media Tyson 3,500, altimeter 29907.
4, weather's better than 5,005, temperature 26, 2.16, altimeter 29906. Arriving aircraft expect visual approach, landing at departing runway 23 left, NOTAM, runway 23 right close, runway 23 right is
elevation field about 1,000.
Elevation, field elevation's right here.
I remember these.
So if you want to do 2,500 as your kind of your pattern.
I see the ILS.
Perfect.
Wow, perfecto. This is the final approach fixes there, I understand, right?
That's right.
2,800, right?
Yeah, check this out. Yep, 2,800 at that point. It's perfect. We call it
okay,
Rocky
5733, reset your transponder.
Where you should intercept the approach.
Yeah, we can do approach.
Yep, perfect. I'll pull up the chart here just to take a peek since we're...
Okay, with 5733, contact
What's kind of
approach.
neat, Andre, if you push this button in right here, this cursor button, turns into sort of like an iPad.
Oh my God.
731, turn left heading 200.
This is perfect.
Left, wait for
Scroll
takeoff.
up and down.
Wow.
These big 14-inch screens are really nice for these
Oh
charts. All right, airport in sight. Final.
Airport in sight, localizer is alive. Localizer captured.
So this is perfect. We're 1 mile
Looking
from
for
Rocky Top. So let's go ahead and put the landing gear down.
Gear down.
And if you go ahead and set your power for about 2.5% of thrust here.
Yep, I see.
Yep.
And probably I need full flaps before final approach.
And right before the final, it's time for a full flap. So we hit the sequence perfectly. There's your glide path coming in.
Yep, waiting for.
Excellent. And then you'll notice your trim. It's going to feel perfect when you're about 5-6 degrees. It'll give you the right kind of attitude to fly the glide path all the way down.
And 90 knots on approach speed, right?
So you want to be VREF plus 10, VREF today? This
84.
looks like about 83, 84, so 95 knots
95.
is excellent. We'll transition, since we're VFR today, we'll transition to VREF at 1,000 feet. Or correction, we do it at 500 feet at the 500-foot call out. Just put the minimums in there for you, so you'll see the minimum show up.
Yep, 1165.
All right, so now's a good time to start transitioning to VREF. You're doing exactly what I would suggest, is bring it back to probably about there with the power, 20 to 25% power, and then if you have that trim right where you need it, it should cause you to pitch up a little bit, slow down just a touch to catch VREF over the numbers. Right on the glide path. There's the 500-foot call out. Hey, final check.
Gear down, 3 green, full flaps.
Brakes down, good. Got all that done. Gears down and locked. Flaps are full. Check, check. And the cabin has depressurized. Autopilot's off. Okay. Ready to land, Captain.
Runway inside, continue landing.
Looks good.
Minimums.
Continue landing.
And you're right at VREF, so it's important. Carry that power setting that you have, which is excellent. Just over the numbers, over the threshold, and then once you have the runway made, a smooth reduction of power on the thrust lever, and ever so slight flare for the main landing gears to touch down first. On the 1,000-foot markers, boom, nice. Excellent.
First landing in a jet, in a Vision Jet, I mean.
How do you say excellent in Russian?
Прекрасно.
That's what it was.
Thank you.
Vision Jet 8 Alpha Golf, turn left when able, taxi to the Vision Center V Alpha, this frequency.
Okay, left B Alpha 4, Vision Center with you, 958 Alpha Golf.
I fall in love with Cirrus again.
All right. Great news. All right, after landing, we'll clean it up. So bring the flaps up. Flaps are up. Good.
Yep.
No, we don't need to do the toga. Go around. Flaps up. Okay. No icing on. Probe heat can come off. Great. You can even turn the fresh air from our bleed to fresh air. You can turn the oxygen off. That's fine. Okay. Everything else until we shut down.
Boom, 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 boom.
Cool, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
To show people this feature on the ground as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to practice, you know, taxiing on the center line, because the camera's right underneath the nose, right underneath the radome, this is a great way to do it.
Nice.
I find the EVS camera to be really important on the Vision Jet because when you're coming through a cloud layer, if the temperature shows up here, freezing, well, before you go through that cloud layer, you need to turn the engine ice protection on, right? Every time. If it's night, if it's dark, if there's no moon, I cannot see where that cloud layer begins. But when I turn this on, I can see very clearly where that cloud layer begins, and it helps me anticipate turning that engine ice protection on. I don't want to fly with that on all the time.
Yeah.
Because it steals uses
some
bleed
power.
air, and so it steals a little bit of power from me.
Yeah.
That's right.
What is your calculation? I believe you did this calculation many times. What is operational cost for owner?
Yeah, I'll give you in U.S. dollars based on kind of average U.S. fuel prices, is around $750 per hour.
Perfect.
Including all the maintenance package, fuel, operating, that's it. Everything except for the fixed costs of insurance, hangar, and the financing on the airplane. Right?
$750 в час за бизнес-джет. Это нереально, это очень-очень дешево. Я могу сказать для примера, ближайший конкурент, например, Cessna Citation Mustang, его стоимость операционного часа будет $1000. CJ1, допустим, это будет $1500.
Actually, about financing, I would ask you about financing. I saw you have program on the Vision website, right?
We do, yeah. So we have a domestic, a U.S. we call it a domestic finance program, and then we have a new international finance program that we just launched recently. There are a number of countries that I cannot finance with this new international finance program. Is unfortunately Russia's on the list.
Okay. What about Ukraine?
So far as I know,
it's possible.
It's possible.
Nice.
And so that program is funded through the Export-Import Bank of the United States. It's put together for us by a company called Air Finance. They work with XM and Apple Bank. And so it's really a nice program. It typically a 7-year term, pretty reasonable, 5 to 6% interest rates, some fees up front, but very, very compelling for customers who want to finance.
It's even better if we can finance people. We will have much more interest. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, we're gonna go straight. He's gonna park us.
Okay. Private owner. How the private owner park airplane? He needs to buy something like that.
Yeah, you can use. We recommend.
Tow car.
Yeah, the best tug is the one we recommend. We use here at the Vision Center in Knoxville. That one works really well. You have the option to include a power pack on it for ground power and stuff like that for jump starts. All right, Brad.
So shut down checklist.
So yeah, we'll pull thrust on.
Thrust lever to idle.
Good.
Engine IPS switch. This one.
Yep.
Right?
So you can go ahead and turn to off.
Off.
Yep.
Bleed air switch already fresh. Oxygen master off. Lights is off. Engine up.
You just did that off, and now you can just push the button, the same button you pushed to start it.
This one.
One time.
And I need to follow below 24%.
Once you're below 24, then you can turn the generators off. Yep.
I'm below 24. Gen 1, Gen 2 off. Cap spin.
And everything else can go off. Yep. That's it.
Back. And battery 1, battery 2.
We don't need parking brakes. Woohoo!
That's it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's
Nice job.
so cool. I love it. Ну что, дорогие друзья, 6 часов вечера. Я провел сегодня весь день на заводе Cirrus, но это не завод, на самом деле, это учебно-тренировочный центр Cirrus. Только что приземлился с Адамом из Cirrus. Буквально вот 15 минут назад мы запарковали Vision Jet. Это был мой первый демо-полет на Vision. Я чувствую себя слегка опустошенным, как это бывает после полетов на новых типах самолетов, которые прям вот excited. То есть я чувствую себя уставшим, но уставшим по-хорошему, не потому что я устал от того, что я там что-то рулил и так далее, а потому что самолет настолько классный, настолько крутой, настолько комфортабельный и ну прям вау. То есть у меня вот как первый мой полет случился на Сучке когда-то, вот как меня тогда прибило, когда я полетал со Светой Лупановой на Сучке на высший пилотаж, и меня прибило так, что я 5 минут вообще не мог от самолета отойти, я просто тупо молчал. Вот примерно такое ощущение у меня сейчас, меня тоже прибило, и примерно вот уже там 5 минут я пытаюсь осознать и вообще, что это было. Хотя у меня 1000 часов на турбинных самолетах, на джетах, и я летаю на Леере, у меня есть тайп-рейтинг на Airbus, я летал на Citation'ах, я летал на многих разных джетах. Ну вот прям космос. Реально, ребята, это космос. То есть то, что сделал Vision Jet, то, что сделал Cirrus, обращайтесь за приобретением. Если кто-то хочет приобрести Vision Jet, я знаю, как это сделать. Напишите мне, я вам расскажу, покажу, заведу за ручку и, может быть, даже помогу оформить всю эту сделку. И скоро я, кстати, буду делать следующие выпуски уже из этого тренинг-центра как студент. Я жду своего назначения в группу на тайп-рейтинг. Я решил 100% делать тайп-рейтинг на Vision Jet, даже если он мне не понадобится в ближайшие пару лет. Stay tuned, подписывайтесь на мой канал, будет еще много интересного. С вами был Андрей Борисевич. Пока.